Good afternoon. I'm Christine Sawinski, Project Coordinator for the Mobile Health Program. The Mobile Health Program is one of the variety of programming aligning with the Partnership for Healthy Communities mission to mobilize the university's research, educational, and public service capacities in collaboration with community partners to address health inequities. Joining us today, we have 25% of you all are represented by the community and 10% is represented by our UD staff and faculty. Thank you all of you for joining. Our audience lines will remain muted throughout the presentation. Please use the Q&A box for any questions and we will address those following the presentation. Any technical issues, please submit through the chat. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted soon to the Mobile Health Program website at mobilehealthdelaware.org. I now would like to take a moment and tell you a little more about the Mobile Health Program. The Mobile Health Program is a collaboration between the Lieutenant Governor's Office, St. Francis Healthcare, Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield Delaware, and the University of Delaware's Partnership for Healthy Communities. The Mobile Health Program is funded by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield of Delaware. The program enables faculty, staff, and students to support improvements in health outcomes in Wilmington's most vulnerable neighborhoods through community health services outreach. We are glad that you are here to join us today for our program on building healthy meals while saving your wallet. It's my great pleasure to introduce you to Kara Chicola, our student dietetic intern, and Professor Anya Liefeld, Associate Director and the Director in the Department of Behavioral Health and Nutrition. Thank you both Anya and Kara for being with us today, and thank you to our audience members for joining.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending my presentation today titled Building Healthy Meals and Saving Your Wallet. And also thank you to Christine for organizing this presentation for the UD Mobile Health Program. So now without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so the main objectives that can be taken away from this presentation today will be gaining an understanding of how to use MyPlate, being able to list 3 meal planning tools to use, gaining an understanding of how to plan a budget for groceries, being able to list 5 budgeting tools to use, demonstrating your skills gained today with polling, and lastly, being able to utilize meal planning and budgeting tools if you have higher needs, which we'll go over at the end of this presentation. Okay. Next slide. So to get started, I will ask everyone how you would define meal planning and to write it in the chat box. Christine, I don't see the chat box. Okay, I'm starting to see it. Okay, planning meals ahead of time, prepping meals throughout the week. Great, so these are some great answers. So a way that I could define it for this presentation is a way to plan out how to meet nutritional needs for the week. Okay, next slide. So our first polling question today is, have you ever meal planned before, yes or no? So you should have a poll popping up on your screen. You can go ahead and answer that. Okay, so we've had a lot of experienced meal planners here today. And that's great. Hopefully some of the tips that I'm sharing with everyone today can just help your meal planning process. Okay, so now moving on to our next polling question. Have you ever heard of or used MyPlate before? Yes or no? And again, you should see a polling pop up on your screen. Okay, so 85%, so A lot of the audience today has already heard of it. This may be a little bit of a refresher then, but hopefully you can learn something new today. Okay. Next slide. Okay, so what is MyPlate? MyPlate is a handy graphic tool to use for meeting nutritional needs within the correct portioned amounts. On your right, you see this MyPlate graphic tool, and this is a visual of how each meal should look. Half of your plate filled with fruits and vegetables, a quarter with grains, and a quarter with protein. Additionally, you can have a glass of dairy or milk on the side, or you could have it in the correct serving on your plate as well. So the reason why your plate should look like this is because it is a good rule of thumb to help obtain all of your nutritional needs throughout the day. Every person's nutritional daily needs are going to slightly differ based on many factors, such as your body weight, your gender, your age, etc. But here is a good example of food groups needed for the age group of 31 to 50. Just assume that may be the population here today. So first we could start with the protein. Throughout your day, you want to aim to get 6-ounce equivalents if you're a man and 5 if you're a woman. No problem if if you're not familiar with the term ounce equivalents. We're going to go over what exactly that means on the next slide. So then in terms of grains, you want to have 7-ounce equivalents for a man and 6 for a woman. And then for the next 3 food groups, we want to think about using a measuring cup. For if you're going to measure out your food, a cup would be a serving. So in terms of vegetables, men need 3 cups, women need 2.5 cups. In terms of fruit, men need 2 cups, woman needs 1.5 cup. And for dairy, both genders need 3 cups throughout the day. Okay, so now to help everyone visualize exactly what ounce equivalents look like, here is an example. So first we're going to start with protein. So 1 ounce of meat would look like a matchbox, which you see on the screen. And that's a pretty small amount of meat. And most people don't just eat 1 ounce of meat at a meal. You're more likely to have about 3 ounces. And the way you can measure 3 ounces is by a deck of cards, which you also see on the screen. If you don't have a deck of cards handy, you can also use the palm of your hand right here. If your hand is smaller like mine, it may not be the best estimate of 3 ounces, so a deck of cards is probably the better way to go. And then also with different proteins, what 1 ounce would look like is a 1/2 cup cooked beans, an egg, 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. And then in terms of nuts, 1 ounce would look like a handful or the size of a golf ball. And then in terms of what an ounce of grain looks like, I have it listed below. I'm just going to quickly read it off. 1/2 cup cooked cereal, 1/2 cup cooked pasta, 1 cup dry cereal, a slice of bread, 3 cups popcorn, and 1 small 6-inch tortilla. And then lastly, if you want to think about measuring dairy, for 1 ounce of cheese, you can visualize 3 small dice, which you see above on the slide. Okay, so now we're going to dive into each of the groups. And first, we're going to start with the vegetable group. So it is important to eat a variety of vegetables every day, as each of these groups that I have listed, the leafy greens, the red, orange, starchy, and other, will provide you with different nutritional needs, so different vitamin and minerals. So for example, the leafy greens, they're going to provide you with more vitamin K, and your red, orange group, they're going to provide you with more vitamin A. So that's why it's important to have a variety of vegetables throughout the day. Okay, so with our fruit group, this is similar. We again want to make sure we're getting in all of our vitamins and minerals. So you want to eat a variety of fruit. Some things I wanted to point out on this slide is we also have dried fruit, canned fruit, and 100% fruit juice. Now, whole fruit is your best bet because it's going to be higher in fiber. And we all know fiber is great to keep us regular. It's also great for lowering your blood sugar and lowering your blood cholesterols. In terms of dried fruit, that is high in fiber, but you want to watch the portion size with dried fruit. So a 1/4 cup of dried fruit is equal to a 1/2 cup of whole fruit for a serving. So you just want to make sure you're paying attention to the portion size there due to it being more calorically dense. And then in terms of fruit juice, this is a great option as well because it's going to provide you some vitamins and minerals, but it's lacking in fiber. So you may want to make sure if you're drinking one serving of that in the day, you also want to be getting in your whole fruits for more fiber. Okay, so now we have the grain group. Again, this is going to be something you want to aim to have a quarter of your plate. And throughout the day, you want to strive to get half of your grains being whole. And what I mean by that is if you have a whole grain, it's also going to be higher in fiber than if you were to just have a grain that was not whole. And a way you can also tell that you're eating whole grains is if you are looking on the ingredient list when you're shopping with the first ingredient saying whole and then the next word. So it could be whole flour. So you want to look for that on the ingredient list. And then here I just have some great options as well to get in your diet throughout the day. Okay, so now the protein group. So when buying meats, it's important to look for lean cuts of meat to help keep your saturated fat in your diet to a minimum. And you want to look for cuts of meat that have 90 to 93% fat. 99 to 3% lean and 7 to 10% fat. And then in terms of fish, fish are great to have in a diet because they contain healthy fats, which you want to have in your diet and would benefit your heart health. In terms of eggs, eggs is a great food that would also provide you with some nutrient dense options. And then plant proteins as well. They're great to have in place of meat if you want to limit some more fat in your diet. And they are going to provide you different nutrients as well. Okay, so lastly, we have the dairy group. So the biggest rule of thumb with dairy is to buy fat-free milk, yogurt, and cheese to gain the nutritional benefit of calcium and vitamin D, while also limiting saturated fat in your diet. So I have some great dairy options listed below. Okay, so now to put it all together with what one meal should look like. As you can see, I have chicken shown over there. And next to the phone, it's 2 ounces. But again, we want to think about the 3 ounces with the deck of cards. And the rice is also measured with a measuring cup to be half cup. So both, as you can see, are going to be about a quarter of your plate. And then the rest of your plate is going to be 1 cup steamed broccoli, half cup steamed carrots. So that's probably going to take up half of your plate. And then you could also have a cup of milk on the side. Okay, so now this is a lot of information and I don't expect everyone to remember all of it, but I do have this great tool. So if you do have access to a smartphone, you can download this app. It's called Start Simple with MyPlate, and it really does provide everything that I just went over so you don't have to remember anything. So I'm just gonna go through quickly and provide a little bit of a demo with the app. So here's the home screen, and it provides all of the food groups that I just talked about, and you can click on one of them. Okay, so one of the first settings, if you see the arrow on the bottom, you can see the goals tab, and it provides you with a list of different goals that you can set for yourself to help keep you more accountable. So I selected the vegetable group and the fruit group. The goals that I selected was to add vegetables to my lunch and to add fruit to my salad. And then I can check it off after I did it in the day. And then also, as you can see with the number 1 arrow, there is a badge tab, and you can start to collect badges with more of the goals that you meet. And then also in the My Plate 101 tab, this is going to provide you with the information that I did just go over. So you click on the My Plate 101 tab, and then it brings you to the number 2 arrow, which shows the different genders, the different age groups, and then how many servings of each food group you need throughout the day. So as you can see with this, it's the daily vegetables recommendation. And for women 19 to 30 years old, you can get 2.5 cups a day. And then in the third arrow, it breaks it down even more into the different types of vegetables that I just explained and what a serving of it would look like. So broccoli, that's 1 cup would give you a serving of vegetables for the day. Right? Okay, so next polling question, let's test everyone's knowledge. Which meal would be the most balanced? So again, you're gonna have a poll popped up, and A is 1 cup blackberries, a banana, cup of grapes, cup of oatmeal. Then B, 1 cup blackberries, 1 tablespoon peanut butter, a half cup oatmeal, a quarter cup low-fat milk. And then the last option, 2 tablespoons peanut butter and 2 cups oatmeal. Okay, right. So everyone who voted got it correct, and that is because you have your fruit group, your protein group, your dairy group, and your grain group. So we want to make sure we're getting all of the food groups on our plate. Okay. So I also have additional tools for everyone to use. So first I listed a URL. Everybody can write it down, or you can just go to the MyPlate website and type in MyPlate Kitchen. So what's great about, yeah, Christine, if you want, you can click on it and we can show everybody. Yeah, so you can click on the view recipes right in the center. Yeah, so if you ever are need some inspiration in the kitchen or you're bored with your meals, this My Plate Kitchen provides you with a ton of healthy recipe ideas, and it also has a breakdown of the food groups you're getting. So if you click on maybe just the first one up there, 20-minute chicken Creole, so you scroll down, it's going to provide you ingredients, directions, and then also the nutrition information and also the MyPlate food group broken down. So this is a great tool to use if you need some new recipes or you're just bored with the meals you're currently eating. Okay, so then the next tool I had was also on MyPlate, but I think it may have been taken down because I tried the URL recently and it did not work. But this is another great tool to use. So it just is basically your weekly calendar, Sunday to Saturday, and then it lists all of the meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack. And it is a great way to plan out your meals. So breakfast Sunday, the first box, you can create a meal that has all of the different food groups on the MyPlate plate. And you don't need to do this at the start of the week and plan out every single meal. You can do it at breakfast time for the whole day, or you can do it before your meal. Whichever way, it's not going to stress you out. This shouldn't be something that overwhelms anybody. Okay, so now we're going to switch gears and go into budgeting. So please enter in the chat box what budgeting tips you already follow at the grocery store. Coupons, looking for sales. Yeah, so these are some great options, and it's definitely some things we'll probably talk about today, but I'm sure there will be some more ideas for everybody. Okay, next slide. Okay, so here's a simple checklist that I created that you can refer to. I have a graphic that I could send out later at the end of this the slideshow as well with this checklist. So the first big thing is to make sure you're shopping at a grocery store that is less expensive. So some options are Aldi's, Walmart, Costco, and this would be opposed to shopping at a store like Acme or ShopRite. They're going to be more expensive. And then just to quickly read this, I'm going to go into each one in more depth in the next slide. But creating a list of ingredients from your meal plan, checking the fridge first, buying store brand names, shopping in bulk for non-perishable items, considering the unit price, and also using coupons. Okay, so the first trick is to choose the same ingredients for your meals in creative ways. And what I mean by this, when you're shopping to consider buying, if you're buying brown rice, consider how you can use this throughout the week in all of your meals. So instead of, I need brown rice for this recipe, I need quinoa for this recipe, you can instead use it in different ways for each meal. Instead of just having brown rice as a side dish for every meal of the week, you can get creative. You can put it in your tortilla, use it as a side dish, put it as a grain in your salad and stuffed peppers. You can make a fried rice dish out of it. And then I also showed with chicken, low-fat cheese, fruits, and vegetables, different ways as well you can get creative. Okay, so shopping in bulk for non-perishable items can save you money. So as buying a large quantity one time can be less expensive than buying the same product that's smaller multiple times. Additionally, there are often deals if you buy more of the same item at once. So here I have a bunch of non-perishable items that would be great to try to keep in your cabinet in bulk. And these are rice, oats, pastas, meat, poultry. So this would be your frozen meats that sometimes in stores, they'll provide you one big thing of chicken and then it says buy one, get one free. Also canned goods, frozen produce, certain vegetables such as onions that are not going to go to waste, canned tuna, and you want to avoid things that are pre-cooked or pre-chopped, such as like pre-chopped squash or something in the produce aisle. Those are more likely to go to waste quicker than if you were to buy the vegetable in its whole form. Also, before buying in bulk, ask yourself, how will I use these items? Will they go to waste? Don't buy a big item that you just don't actually want to eat. Okay, so this is a quick polling question. Which option could save you more money? Option A, which is a 14-ounce rice box, and then option B, which is a 20-pound bag of rice. Okay, so polling should pop up on your screen. Right, okay. Everybody got that one correct, and that is because it's bigger in size and it's going to be able to last you longer. Okay, so now shopping with brand names. So if you see an item often marketed or advertised, it's definitely going to be more expensive. So you want to look for the more generic store brand names that are more just so describing the food and of what it is. So now, can everybody tell me which one is the brand name, A or B? Okay, so 73% got it right. And that is because it's Chobani. Chobani is often marketed or advertised. You may see it in commercials. And it just has a brand name. And then the other one just says Greek non-fat yogurt. So it's more of a description and no specific name such as Chobani. So that's something you want to pay attention to. Okay, so we're going to repeat this. Which option is the brand name again? Option A or option B, the Toasted Oats or the Cheerios? Okay, so the polling should pop up on your screens. Okay, was everyone able to answer the poll? Okay, yes, so this option, this question, I mean, in the poll was worded incorrectly. It wasn't supposed to be which option could save you more money. It was which one is the brand name. So this poll may be inaccurate. But we did pretty well on the last one. So I think we can move on from knowing which one is the brand name and which one isn't. Okay, so now you can also utilize the unit price. So this may be something that you see when shopping that has a little tag above the food item. So the way you can calculate your unit price is by dividing the cost by the quantity. And the lower the unit price, the better the deal. So the way you can do this is by dividing the cost by the quantity. So you divide 0.72 by the quantity, which is 6 ounces. And you would do that for both. And so you divide $1.62 from 32 ounces, and then you get your unit price in orange. So the unit price is actually less for option B, even though the price that you're paying looks like it's more. And that is because there's more volume. You're going to be getting more yogurt in the end for less the price. So you're getting the better bang for your buck with option B. And lastly, you can use coupons. Like somebody said in the beginning of this presentation that they use coupons. So places you can find coupons are in your Sunday insert in the local newspaper. And if you use different papers, you can actually get multiple different coupons that way. So that's something to consider, subscribing to more newspapers. There's also this website to get some free coupons, coupons.com, and also just asking your grocery store clerk if there is any in the store that day that they can provide for you. And then lastly, just getting organized by collecting them in a binder. Okay, so now everybody should be an expert on budgeting and building healthy meals. So I have a quick activity. So there is a program called Women, Infant, and Children. If you are a woman that has an infant, you're breastfeeding, or you're pregnant, you may qualify to go to this program run by the government that can provide you some supplemental nutrition. And these are the foods that are offered to these women who are on this program, also called WIC. So can anybody, and if you can't, if you just don't want to, I can provide you the answer. But can anybody come up with the balanced meals with the list of foods that I have written down? And you can write it in the chat box. So we want to think back to our My Plate. I'll give everyone like 15 more seconds and then I'll share some of my ideas. Okay. All right, so some of the ideas I came up with, oh wait, we do have an answer. Okay, egg with cheese, with whole wheat toast and juice. Yeah, that is a great option. So you have your dairy, your protein, your grain, and your fruit. An option that I came up with was canned beans, rice, vegetable, tofu, and cheese. And then I also came up with peanut butter, bread, apple, and milk. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is the same activity, but it's for people that qualify for another government-funded program called Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and this could be a list of foods provided. And again, you can come up with balanced meals with the foods offered to you. Some of the ones that I came up with was an egg, bread, apple, and yogurt. So again, the egg's gonna give you the protein, bread, grain, apple, fruit, and yogurt, dairy. And then I also came up with another one of chicken, potatoes, lettuce, tomato, and milk. So lastly, I am not sure if this slide will apply to any of the audience members, but if anybody in the audience is pregnant, you're going to have increased nutrient needs. And that can make budgeting a bit of a challenge or may just seem a little scary. So the way to do this, to budget with higher increased needs, is to really utilize the same tools we went over. So the screen went away. Okay. So to use the same tools we just went over. So you want to, in the beginning of the week, make that meal plan or make those ingredients that you want to buy at a grocery store that contains the vitamins and minerals that if if you meet with your doctor, someone at WIC, a dietitian, that can provide you the vitamins and minerals that you need. And then they can also help tell you which foods contain these vitamins and minerals. So I have listed below a lot of foods that contain these vitamins and minerals, and then you can create a little My Plate with that has meals with these foods. So I have salmon, sweet potatoes, and broccoli, and milk. Um, and so that's just one example, but again, you want to just utilize the tools that I talked about in the beginning to help meet your higher needs. And then you can also add additional snacks throughout the day. Okay, so in summary, meal planning can help you save money, help meet your nutrient goals. And when meal planning, it's definitely going to help to utilize the My Plate tool. When budgeting, you want to utilize that checklist that I created. And if you do have higher needs or if you do have any special needs, meal planning can definitely help meet these needs. Okay, so thank you all for listening. It was my pleasure. What questions do you now have?
So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box for us. So Kara, one of the first questions we have is, how do you determine a proper budget?
Okay, so I would start off with looking at, this is probably more of an individualized answer, but really looking at setting a number for the week of how much you want to spend on groceries weekly or monthly, on whichever works for you. And I would try to stick to that as best as possible. And, trial and error, going to the grocery store. If you go over it one week, then maybe the next week, see how you can adjust and spend less. I don't know if Professor Lee felt, if you have anything you want to add to that.
It really depends. I mean, there's certainly a minimum amount of money you need to spend in order to get the perfectly balanced diet. It depends a lot too on your own food preferences. Um, from a sort of global standpoint, if you look at all the expenses that you have compared to your income, where you're not able to budge in any way. So if you pay rent, it's going to be the same every month. So, deduct that from your income, deduct what you typically spend on electricity and utilities, et cetera, and go from there based on what you have left. There's not a set number, like, when we talk about rent or mortgages, shouldn't be more than 30% of your income. With food, it's a little bit more difficult. So I agree with Kara that there may be some trial and error in seeing what you can get. I have done that where I've set myself a budget. This is X number of dollars I'm going to spend for the week. And I go into the store with my calculator and, start adding up. And the first couple times you do it, it takes a really long time. But then as you get more familiar with pricing and what foods fit and what foods your family will eat and won't eat, it does get faster. The other thing I found that has helped me a lot is going to the grocery store once a week with a list of what I'm going to buy. So kind of having an idea of this coming week, these are the meals I'm going to make. I don't necessarily know which day I'm going to make which meal, but really having a list and going in once a week, because I find if I go to the grocery store 2-3 times a week just to pick up 1 or 2 other things, I never come out with 1 or 2 other things. I come out with 5, 6, 8 other things. So And then it's much harder to keep track of your budget too. But really going in with a calculator and adding it up. The nice thing now is that it's actually gotten a little bit easier with the grocery store delivery services or the curbside pickup being so popular that it's much easier to actually make a plan before you go into the store. So if you have the time to sit and kind of price out your list by using one of those websites as if you were going to place an order, but not actually placing the order, that can be helpful too. So I find that sometimes I'm better off just kind of putting my blinders on when I go into the store, trying to avoid some of those impulse purchases. So really making that list, like Kara talked about, the meal planning, that's a really great way, not just to make sure that you actually have things in the home to make balanced meals, but then also you can make a list and streamline that whole grocery shopping process.
Great, thank you. Next question, Kara. Is it more beneficial to buy frozen or fresh vegetables?
So both are great. So in terms of frozen, it may be a little less expensive, so that would be a reason to buy it. I know most people like to buy fresh vegetables because they're more tasty, but nutritionally, they provide you the same nutritional components. So neither is better than the other.
Thank you. Next question. Sorry, go ahead, Anya.
Yeah, just to add on to that, there have actually been some studies where they've shown that the frozen vegetables maintain their nutrients more because they're typically frozen very shortly after being harvested, whereas some of the vegetables or fruits that you might find in the produce section might have traveled from halfway around the world, literally, and so have lost some nutrients between the time that they were harvested to when you would actually purchase them and then consume them. Whereas with frozen vegetables, if they're frozen within an hour or two of harvest, and then they're not defrosted until you're actually consuming them, they sometimes actually maintain more nutrients than the fresh ones. It's not to say you shouldn't be eating fresh ones, and especially if you have the ability to grow some of those or get them at a farm market. And especially if you're buying them in season, then they haven't probably traveled as much. So if you think about bananas, for example, nowhere in Delaware bananas are grown. Nowhere on the East Coast, really. Probably not really many in the US at all. So if you're buying bananas, you know that they have traveled a long time. I'm not saying don't buy bananas. I'm not trying to discourage the consumption of produce by any means, but there's definitely a benefit to the frozen ones or buying the fresh ones in season. The only thing you want to watch out for with frozen ones is that I'm seeing more and more frozen vegetables that have sauces and seasonings added to them. And then sometimes they contain a lot of extra sodium and some other things in there that you don't really need. But there are many that are available. They're literally just the vegetable. There's no salt added. There's no seasoning added to it. And you can customize them yourself then, when you get them. But yeah, frozen vegetables are a great option as well.
Thank you. Next question. Do you suggest using My Plate for breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
Yeah, so I definitely suggest it. Now, the way it's laid out on the plate, like half your plate, fruit, vegetable, quarter, like it doesn't need to look like that. So, for example, you can have chili, pasta, and it's not like so perfect to the plate as that graphic tool shows, but it is definitely a good rule of thumb to consider, if you're making a pasta that you have, so you already have your grains with the pasta, but that you're putting in some different vegetables. You're putting in different food groups, just to make sure that you're not just eating the pasta and you're just increasing your nutrient needs that way. And also, of course, sticking to the healthy portion sizes. So in the sense of eating My Plate, it's really making sure that you're sticking to the correct portion sizes and getting nutrients from each of the food groups.
Great, thank you. Next question. If my grocery store options are limited due to transportation, what budget tips would be helpful?
Yeah, so I would definitely suggest using your resources by maybe reaching out to the Food Bank of Delaware and asking where your best bet for a grocery store is that is cheaper and can provide you with healthy options. And yeah, I would definitely try to utilize your community resources if that is the reason. And for transportation needs, again, I would probably just try to locate resources as needed.
And if you're, I just want to make sure I'm understanding the question correctly too. So I know sometimes depending on where you live, there's really no grocery store within walking distance, and you might have some corner stores that are available to you. Is that what you're talking about, budgeting tips for if you're relying on corner stores for groceries?
I'm not seeing any clarification, Anya.
Yeah, I'll just
Just it says
assume.
limited to do transportation.
Right, right. So I know living in Wilmington, sometimes, depending on where you are, their grocery store options are really pretty limited. And so there are a lot of corner stores, little convenience stores, grocery store, not grocery, gas station, convenience stores, basically. Sometimes those, yeah, the corner stores, and they can be really pricey and kind of limited selection too. So for that, knowing that frozen vegetables are going to be a good option. They can be a little bit less expensive sometimes than the fresh ones, if that's an option. Sometimes those corner stores only carry canned vegetables. And so that can be definitely an option. They can be higher in sodium, and I'm kind of jumping ahead. I know there's a question about which is better, canned or frozen vegetables. Almost always it's going to be frozen vegetables that are going to be better because the canned ones are preserved using a lot of salt. So from a health perspective, it's better usually to eat the frozen ones as long as they don't have any added salt or sauces. But the canned can be a good option if you're trying to cut down the cost. There are food banks that have developed resources as to where the nearest stores are, where you can purchase things. A lot of times those corner stores don't accept coupons or do price matching, but they will accept EBTs, so like food stamp benefits or WIC vouchers, depending on what people qualify for. Things like legumes, which are beans and peas, so things like kidney beans, pinto beans, lentils, those are all really great ways to get your protein. And for the amount of protein that you're getting, you're going to pay less than you would for beef or chicken, for animal protein. So that's an option too. So eating a more legume-based diet rather than animal meat can help save money quite a bit. Also gets you some really good fiber, which most Americans don't get enough of. Yeah, I think those are some of the tips that I can think of.
Thank you. And we have another question. Can sweets fit into a healthy diet, Kara?
So yes, I would again say that that sweets do fit into a healthy diet. You do want to be eating it in the correct portion amount as well. I would suggest maybe picking one of your favorite sweets and keeping it in the house, having it maybe one time a day, and just making sure you keep it in the right portion amount because throughout the day, some of your calories that you are getting can definitely be calories that don't provide you all of the nutrients that your other food groups do. But again, you want to keep that to a limited amount, but one sweet is not going to hurt you. It's actually better due to if you're restricting too much, then you're just going to be getting more cravings. So I would recommend keeping sweet in a healthy portion amount in your diet.
Thank you. And
Buy the
last,
Costco size
okay,
bag.
Danya.
I was just saying, don't buy the Costco size bag unless you're planning on giving it all out right away. Because if it's in the house, chances are much higher you're going to eat it. But if you buy it in smaller amounts that are considered reasonable serving sizes, then absolutely agree with what Kara said. It does help reduce your cravings too. For many of us, as soon as you tell someone not to eat any sweets or not to eat any ice cream or whatever the case may be, for a lot of people, that makes you think about that particular food that you're not supposed to have so much more. And then you feel really deprived. And after a couple of weeks, then usually people will not only give in, but really overindulge. So I'm a big fan of eating everything in moderation.
Thank you. Last question I have is, what are some healthy snack ideas? You had some meal ideas. What would be some snacks, Kara and Anya?
Yeah, so some that I think of right away is a fruit paired with like peanut butter, so an apple and peanut butter, cheese and crackers, so maybe like one of those string cheeses that is reduced fat, hummus and carrots, um, some popcorn. Do you have any other ideas off the top of your head?
Yeah, those are some really good ones. Some yogurt, you can put some fresh fruit or some oats in the yogurt. Something that I sometimes do is use plain yogurt or vanilla yogurt, and you put some oats, just the Quaker oats, for example, in it, and maybe a little bit of honey and a little bit of fruit, and you put it in the refrigerator overnight. So what I've seen a lot of people do is actually use little mason jars. So you have this nice individual serving with a lid. And when you're looking for a snack, you can just reach in the fridge and grab it and it's ready to go. You don't have to do any prep at that point. Because what happens to a lot of us when we're hungry is that we'll just reach for whatever the fastest thing is. And a lot of times it's things like potato chips or pretzels that don't necessarily have as much nutritional value, but planning ahead and having some easy to grab healthy options available is a good thing to do. Cutting up some fruit in advance, and then putting it in a container and just sticking it in your fridge. Some fruit does really well if you cut it up the day before, some of it not as much. But if you're cutting up some type of melon or strawberries, something like that, they do pretty well overnight or for a couple of days. So again, having something that's really easy to grab can help you make healthier choices when you're getting back from something or you're just so hungry and you want something really fast. So that was another idea. Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't know. I think you took all my good ideas, Kara.
Thank you. I just saw two more questions come in. I think we have a quick minute or two that we could answer these. There's two. First one is, which meal should be the largest of the day?
Yeah, so wouldn't say that one needs to be the largest of the day. That again is individualized what works best for you. You can keep them all around the same size, wherever you feel throughout the day to be the most hungry. That would probably be the better time to have the biggest meal of the day, but really there is no, at least to my knowledge, no scientific evidence that having a bigger meal one time of the day is better than the other.
I think it's a little bit of a nutrition myth. I know probably many of us have heard that you should have a big breakfast, a small lunch, and then a tiny dinner. And if you eat too much before you go to bed, you're going to gain weight. And there's really no real evidence for it. So as Kara said, it depends on your own personal lifestyle when you feel the hungriest. It's a good idea if you can to try to keep them kind of similar, just as far as health outcomes and blood sugar control. It's actually a good idea not to have one huge one, no matter what time of day, and then have the rest be small. But there's not a set answer for the size of your meal that would be the best.
And the last one we have is, I enjoy making smoothies. How do they fit in the balance?
So my first, I guess, question would be, when you say smoothie, what is in the smoothie? Is it just fruit? Is there more in the smoothie, such as a protein powder or peanut butter, milk? I don't know if there's any clarification on that question.
Not so frozen fruit juice and fruit frozen fruit and fruit juice is what the
Okay.
individual just wrote back.
Okay. Yeah. So a smoothie is definitely great to have in your diet, but if you're only blending fruit and fruit juice, you're only getting fruit. And what's also the thing about that is you're not pairing it with the protein, and the protein is going to help keep you fuller longer. And also some of those other food groups that we discussed. So maybe if you are making smoothies, that's already great, but I would maybe consider adding some milk to it, adding some peanut butter to it, or a protein powder. But protein powders, don't go out of your way and buy one if you if you don't have it or you don't have access to it. You don't need it. You can easily get some protein in your smoothie from nuts or even a yogurt. And a yogurt could also help thicken the consistency for smoothies as well. So do you have anything to add, Professor Liefeld?
Yeah, just a little bit. You're right. So if you're just putting fruits in, it's just fruits that you're getting, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it can be really easy to drink a lot of fruit pretty quickly because you're not having to chew it or anything like that. So from a satisfaction standpoint, sometimes people feel more satisfied if they're eating the whole piece of fruit instead of the smoothie. So I'm not saying don't drink smoothies, but just be aware it's very easy to drink 400, 500 calories worth of fruit in a smoothie. Whereas if I gave you a bowl of fruit that had 400, 500 calories in it, you might not be able to finish the whole bowl. So whenever we're consuming something in liquid form, it's very easy for us to consume it, and then it doesn't make us feel full for very long. That being said, like Kara said, there are some things you can do to make your smoothies a really good option. And I know a lot of people that use them because they are so easy to drink. So they can blend it up real quick and then they can drink it as they're driving off to their next meeting or as they're picking up the kids from school or whatever the case may be. It's actually surprising some of the things you can sort of smuggle into your smoothie without it not ruining the taste of your smoothie. So I've experimented a little bit with putting things like spinach or baby kale or some of these other greens in there. And it changes the color a little bit, but it actually, the fruit generally covers up or provides enough sweetness that it's really a great way to add some vegetables too. You can add the peanut butter or the protein powder, like Kara said, to get some protein. Another really inexpensive thing you can add to your smoothies to add some protein and to add some other nutrients is non-fat dried milk. So the milk powder can be added to it if you don't want to pour liquid milk in there, or you can concentrate it a little bit more by adding the dried milk powder. Adding the yogurt is a good option. So if you're using it as a meal replacement, you can put some protein sources in there. You can put some vegetables, you can put some fruit in there. So it can be really a meal in a jar, but again, be aware that it also contains the calories. Sometimes people look at smoothies as more of a snack. And so it's something that, you need to be aware of, that is something that you ate. But definitely smoothies can be a good way to get lots of nutrients in a pretty small volume.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you, Anya, and thank you, Kara, and thank you to all of you out in the community and UD faculty and staff for joining us today for this wonderful presentation on nutrition on a budget. We will be sending you an eval in the next day or two, so if you could complete that for us, we would greatly appreciate that. I know that Kara has some additional questions for the eval as well, so we will also be sending that along. So look forward to those coming in your email soon. And please check out our website for some upcoming virtual programming that will be taking place in the next few months. We should be updating our website very soon. But again, we want to thank you for joining, and thank you again to our presenter, Kara, and Anya for being with us today. Okay. If you have any questions at all about today's presentation, don't hesitate to reach out to me, Christine Sawinski, Project Coordinator for the Mobile Health Program, and I would be happy to connect you with Kara and Anya. Thank you again for joining.